The Kherson dam explosion has exposed about 40,000 people living in nearby areas to risk the threat of floods. More than 16,000 people are living in the most critical zone in the Ukrainian-held territory on the western side. Some of these areas have been evacuated while operations are underway in the rest of the settlements. Both Russia and Ukraine have accused each other of blowing up the dam. Hundreds of homes, buildings and infrastructure along the Dnipro River have already been inundated by floodwaters. Ukraine's Prime Minister urged the United Nations, the International Red Cross and other aid bodies to act immediately to help residents of southern Ukraine. Ukraine said that the deluge has left thousands of people without access to drinking water, while 2,000 of people were evacuated from the Ukraine-controlled part of the flooded Kherson region. The Prime Minister's concerns were echoed by President Zelensky as well, who said an international organization not present in the crisis zone of this catastrophe means that it does not exist at all. North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum has entered the 2024 Republican presidential campaign, adding his name to an already crowded race that includes former President Donald Trump. Burgum, who previously worked as a software company executive, sold his startup to Microsoft more than 2 decades ago. The 66-year-old Republican governor is largely unknown beyond his state. However, he hopes to dent the early leads of his party colleagues like Ron DeSantis, Chris Christie, Mike Pence, and Donald Trump. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has pledged to strengthen economic and democratic ties with the United States. This after meeting US House Speaker Kevin McCarthy on Wednesday. On his US trip, Sunak is set to meet President Biden and members of the US Congress that he met, along with a number of American business leaders. Sunak has also conveyed that Britain will host a global summit on artificial intelligence safety later this year. He expressed that a new alliance would help London and Washington to navigate a global economy where new powers are manipulating global markets. During his visit, Sunak also visited a high school in Washington and met with the students, where he looked at technology and sustainability projects. Russia and China conducted a joint air patrol in the Asia-Pacific region. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, a group of Russian Tu-95 strategic missile carrier and Chinese Kun-6K strategic bombers flew over the Sea of Japan and the East China Sea, as well as the western part of the Pacific Ocean. The joint air patrol was held as a part of the implementation of the Military Cooperation Plan for 2023. A massive fire broke out near a military complex in Sudan's capital city, Khartoum, which the Sudanese army has been battling for weeks to defend. The fire engulfed an arms factory, which was a crucial weapons depot for Sudanese army. The opposing paramilitary Rapid Support Forces attacked the heavily protected military complex. Reports claim that the army used airstrikes to defend the arms factory. Witnesses said that the fires were caused by the bombing of the fuel and gas depots that houses in the area had been hit by shells and stray bullets. Fresh clashes have erupted in Palestine after Israeli armed forces mounted a raid into the city of Ramallah in the West Bank. The Israeli military says that it was an operation to demolish the house of a terrorist who executed a bomb attack in Jerusalem last November. Some Palestinian youth hurled stones at the Israeli forces, who fired live bullets, stun grenades and tear gas at the crowd. The Palestinian Health Ministry said that at least 6 people were transferred to hospital for treatment, including 3 who sustained gunshot wounds. The Sri Lankan capital city of Colombo witnessed another student protest. This time, the students were demanding that the government release the student activists arrested in earlier anti-government protests. Riot police, which was deployed to rein in the protesters, resorted to using water cannons and tear gas to disperse the agitators. Sri Lanka, with the help of a $2.9 billion bailout from the International Monetary Fund, is trying to recover from its worst financial crisis. Brazil's Supreme Court has postponed the ruling on legalizing the boundaries of vast land reserves set aside for indigenous people. The country's apex court asked for more time to analyze the case. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has promised to formally recognize millions of acres of rainforest as indigenous land protected under federal law. However, he has been unable to get legislation passed to implement its protection. The people await a positive ruling from the Supreme Court and are challenging the bill that would strip them from the rights if they had not occupied the land before 1988, which is locally referred to as the benchmark time limit. Serbian president on Wednesday promised an early parliamentary election in an attempt to defuse large protests against his populist rule in the wake of 2 mass shootings that have shaken the nation. In an address to the country, President Aleksandar Vučić said that the vote will be held by the end of this year. Most of the opposition parties have rejected holding an early election, as the president maintains a popularity among the Serb population. The opposition protesters have been demanding the resignations of senior government officials and the revocation of broadcasting licenses for 2 pro-government television networks, which they say promote violence and glorify criminal figures.